Coming up on today's show, we're going to check out an ESPN article that outlined a perfect fit for the Browns outside of round one for all 32 teams, which was nice because the Browns aren't even in round one. And then we're going to look at a mock draft roundup. So with that being said, make sure to subscribe to the channel as we are so close to reaching 34,000 subscribers. But let's get into the perfect fit for the Browns, which Matt Miller from ESPN identified as Tennessee running back Jaylen Wright. And as a Tennessee grad, I am very familiar with Jaylen Wright, so I felt like I was perfect for this job of talking about and breaking down Jaylen Wright. Now, he led Tennessee in rushing the last 2 seasons, averaged 6.6 yards per carry over that stretch. Doesn't have a lot of tread on his tires, though. He was in a committee backfield last year where he split carries with 2 other guys. So he comes into the NFL with not a ton of wear and tear. And that's something teams really like in running backs. Now, he said that he models his game after Alvin Kamara. So I thought we could look at the comparison between Jaylen Wright and Alvin Kamara at Tennessee. So when you look at Jaylen Wright's numbers, and we'll put them on screen for you guys right now. Jaylen Wright at Tennessee the last 2 seasons, 1,800 yards, 6.6 yards per carry. Not a big receiving threat, though, and that's somewhat of a misconception. Oh, Jaylen Wright is a huge receiving target just like Alvin Kamara. No, not really. 14 touchdowns. Alvin Kamara at Tennessee, by the way, his 2 years in Knoxville, 1,200 rushing yards, 6.2 yards a carry, but a much bigger receiving option for the Volunteers and 23 touchdowns to go along with it. So Jaylen Wright, similar in his play style to Kamara, as a home run type of player, not a guy that's going to make his money at the goal line in between the tackles, but someone that when he bounces it to the outside can get to the corner and has great vision for the open field. And he knows what step and what first move to make to beat the linebacker and then meet the safety. When you look at his career at Knoxville, though, he comes off a 1,000-yard season, averaging 7.4 yards a carry, 4 touchdowns. But remember what I said earlier. Didn't have a ton of usage, just 137 carries, 146 the season prior. In his entire collegiate career, 368 carries. But what I want to show you guys is a comparison of 2 running backs. I'm not trying to pick on Blake Corum, but he's a pretty highly touted back, and just want to show you guys some advanced stats between Wright and Corum. So last year, Wright had 136 carries for a little over 1,000 yards, compared to Corum, who had 248 carries, so 100-plus more carries than Wright for 1,400 yards. Jaylen Wright had 35 rushes for 10-plus yards. Blake Corum had 36 with an extra 112 carries. So when you look at just breakaway percentage, I mean, Jaylen Wright was doing it 12% higher than Corum. So yeah, Blake Corum, when you just look at the stats, he's going to look a lot better than Jaylen Wright. But when you look a little bit deeper, I mean, you might even think Blake Corum is a better bruiser running back than Jaylen Wright. Jaylen Wright, yards after contact, 592, an average of 4.3. Blake Corum, yards after contact, sure, 832 with an extra 112 carries, but the average, full yard less, 3.3. So give me Jaylen Wright in round 3 of the draft. I'm open to going round 2 in the draft, but if he's there in round 3, this to me seems like a no-brainer. So my dream, realistic picks, because sure, there's some great players I'd love to see fall to pick 54, but I'm not going to hold my breath on it. If you can get Edgerrin Cooper in round 2 and Jaylen Wright in round 3, to me, that is a masterclass job by Andrew Berry with having no first-round pick to use and being the last team to make a selection in this year's draft. So if it went Edgerrin Cooper, then Jaylen Wright, how would you grade that? A, B, C, D, or F? I'd give it, honestly, a B to B plus grade. I don't think Jaylen Wright or Edgerrin Cooper are going to be major impact players in the first month of their NFL careers like some of the other rookies could be that go in round 1. But I think Jaylen Wright could fill a big need for Cleveland, which we'll look at in a moment. And then I've already dived in on Edgerrin Cooper a ton, but I think he satisfies the need for the Browns at linebacker, and he's all around a great football player. So for me, I would love to see these 2 selections be made. Obviously, it remains to be seen whether or not they'll be available when Cleveland's on the clock in rounds 2 and round 3. But if they are, Andrew Berry should be running these cards to the podium. Now, I do want to add the Nick Chubb element to this conversation, which is how do you address or maybe approach the running back question without knowing when you're going to get Nick Chubb back? Because I think if Andrew Berry knows on draft day what week he can expect to get Chubb to return, that will alter the type of running back he goes after in the draft. I don't think Jaylen Wright is ready to be a 3-down running back in the NFL. But I think Jaylen Wright paired with Nick Chubb could be a really nice selection, could make a really nice duo. So Chubb, with him being Nick Chubb and Wright being a complimentary back, would be a fantastic duo. But that's predicated on Nick Chubb not missing too much time. So we'll look at what Andrew Berry had to say about this a few weeks ago at the NFL owners meeting. But first, a quick shout out to our sponsor today, which is Game Time. Spring is here, which means we have Guardians baseball to watch, along with playoff basketball soon, along with hockey. And I don't want you guys to miss any of the action because of ticket prices. With Game Time, you can get killer last-minute deals and all-in prices for all the big events. I love that Game Time gives you a view from your seat before you purchase your tickets, so there are no surprises when you show up. Plus, hidden fees suck, but Game Time gives you an all-in price option, so you really know how much the tickets are going to cost. Download Game Time today and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. It's the best place to find last-minute seats. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem that code CHAT Sports for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So I want to revisit what Andrew Berry had to say on Nick Chubb's recovery, because I think that's a major factor into what type of running back you go after in the draft. Andrew Berry, speaking at the NFL owners meeting earlier in March, said, honestly, it's probably too early to really understand what he's going to look like at the start of the season. He's doing a fantastic job with the rehab, and he should start to load run He should start to load run probably sometime this upcoming month. Right now, he's strengthening his quad, he's doing the rehab and everything, but it's not like he's going out and done sprints, agility drills, stuff like that. But this month, we expect that he will. So right off the bat, like you look at the last sentence there, and there's some optimism and some confidence from the Browns, which under Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry have been relatively tight-lipped. A few times they speak to the media, Berry specifically, he doesn't just keep it at one-word answers, right? He's not that stingy, but he definitely likes to keep his cards close to his chest. So for him to say, we expect Nick Chubb to be at this point, I think that's a really good sign for if he's progressing that well, hopefully Nick Chubb, who I don't expect to be ready for the start of the season, but maybe he won't miss too much time in the season. And in that scenario, a guy like Jaylen Wright, him and Nick Chubb together, because it's no good if you get Jaylen Wright without Nick Chubb coming back later this year. I don't think Jaylen Wright is in a spot in Cleveland where he can be an effective 3-down back. But him and Nick Chubb, that's going to be a nasty 1-2 punch. More on this from Berry, by the way. The next, call it 3 months, will be pretty telling in terms of his potential readiness for early in the season. We're going to be conservative in terms of our approach and our assessment with building the roster because he's coming off a major knee injury. But I do have to give him a lot of credit. He's done a really, really nice job. But I think we'll have a better sense. Don't hold me to it, but I think probably if you ask me that question around the draft, I may have maybe a little bit more of a specific answer. So we'll hear from Andrew Berry before the 2024 NFL Draft, which is about 3 weeks away or so. And hopefully at that point, they've got a much better idea as to when Chubb will return. But if they come to the draft with the idea of Chubb missing the first half of the season, and you think about what the Browns' needs are, which not a whole lot, the easy answer is always get more wide receivers. Dude, Andrew Berry has gotten 5 wide receivers the last 2 years. Amari Cooper, I guess 2.5, whatever. Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, David Bell. Like, part of me thinks Andrew Berry just wants to see the guys he traded for or drafted take the field before he gets more wide receivers to take those snaps away, right? I don't think wide receiver is going to be as huge of a priority at pick 54 as you might think it is. Now, if a great player slips, then Andrew Berry is always going to go the best player available route. But I don't think the answer for the Browns in the draft is take a wide receiver at 54 no matter what. I think they're going to survey all their options, which could be running back if, like Andrew Berry said, they come to the draft and they're a little bit unsure when Chubb will be ready to roll. To wrap up the show, I want to look at a mock draft roundup for you guys. Kind of keep it short and sweet here. Just run through who the big publications are predicting the Browns take. ESPN's Matt Miller had T'Vondre Sweat, a defensive tackle, go to Cleveland. NFL.com's Chad Reuter had Edgerrin Cooper, our guy from A&M, go to the Browns. CBS Sports said Malachi Corley, the Yak King, a wide receiver from Western Kentucky. The Athletic predicted TJ Tampa, cornerback out of Iowa State. And then Walter Football went with Javon Bullard, the safety/cornerback out of Georgia. If I had to grade these 5 selections here, I'd give Cooper and Corley both A grades. I think both of these players can actually fill a role on this Browns team. Cooper can walk into training camp and compete with Devin Bush for a starting job. Malachi Corley can bring something that is missing in this wide receiver room, which is a yards after catch type of player. That's not what Amari Cooper does. That's not really what Jerry Jeudy does a ton of, and that's not what Elijah Moore has done a lot of either. T'Vondre Sweat, I think, will be a solid defensive tackle. The Browns have already reloaded at that spot, but a lot of those guys are on one-year deals, so it can never hurt to replenish in the trenches and get a good player for 4 years of rookie control. Javon Bullard, the safety/DB corner out of Georgia, I think is a solid player. I just don't really see a spot for him on the Browns, right? I think their safety room is done. You've got 3 starters. You've got 5 starters, arguably. And Grant Delpit, Juan Thornhill, Rodney McLeod, DeAnthony Bell, and Ronnie Hickman. All 5 of those players have shown they can start in this league. I don't really see a need to add another player at that spot with an early pick in the draft. I don't really get the TJ Tampa pick out of Iowa State. Not super high on him as a prospect to begin with. And you've got the ability to have Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, and Martin Emerson all under contract for 2024 and 2025. If you want to re-up at cornerback, I think next year would be the draft to do it. Now, give me a bold take for the NFL draft. The bolder the better. Don't be afraid. Let me know what your bold take is in the comment section. I'll be giving a shout out to some of the boldest ones I see. For me, I think it's Brock Bowers falls. And it's not because he's a bad player. I just think when you look at the top 10, not a lot of them need a tight end. And there's a lot of really good wide receivers and tackles in this draft class. And that's what those teams need, right? I think Brock Bowers could be a great fit for the Titans at 7. But I think the bigger need for them is offensive line with Joe Alt. Maybe the Jets at number 10 take him, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a team in the teens be a little surprised that Bowers is available. And a team like the Broncos or the Saints is like, well, we didn't really plan on going tight end, but we're not going to pass on what we think is generational tight end talent. So that's kind of my bold take for the draft. All right, off-season mode, pick a card time. Producer Trizzy Trace, which card do you want to go with?
I'm going to go with the 9 of Hearts today.
9 of Hearts? I'm going to go with the 2 of Spades.
I like it.
I don't know why. Just going 2 of Spades. What'd you say?
5 of Hearts.
Oh, no. 10 of Hearts.
Damn.
10 of Hearts. All right. That will do it for us on this edition of the Cleveland Browns Report. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll be sure to catch up with you all later.